Hello and welcome to the Stew with JT Brew on the Dynasty Pros Football Channel. Today we are breaking down the NFL schedule and we predict the win-loss records for every team. And we talk about what Vegas has them at, the over-unders, who do we like, who do we not. It all begins now on the Stew.
You up on trades and why you move, you ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing, racking up points, makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release, we started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery of the leaderboard. Quite obviously not a scrub, so started institute, make evaluations like a commissioner do. It's to the point your wife make you watch in a different room. Update your roster and pick and choose when you get some news. Not much that we enjoy more than sipping brew, sifting through new statistics to make it to our end zones through different routes. Universities, institutes, down to homies who clicking groups. I introduce you to the Stew with JT Brew.
They've got the AFC South and the NFC West this year. Ravens right now are at plus 240 on DraftKings and plus 240 on FanDuel to win the division. Sitting right now, this one, they're a team that's on contention as well. 9.5 wins on DraftKings. It's minus 150. So they definitely think they're going over 9.5 wins. Because it's that high, FanDuel flipped it, moved it to 10.5 wins, and then now we're taking it at plus 116. So under is plus 120 at 9.5 wins. FanDuel's got the under 10.5 at minus 142. So this is a team you can see is right at that 9-10 win threshold. John, what do you got them at?
I got him 11-6, and I think that might be even stingy. Lamar's back. You got Todd Monken who's going to try to use the passing game. That's going to keep Lamar healthy to still do Lamar things. But if they can pass the ball to receivers that are, I mean, you got if OBJ can say not Idiotville and Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers, you got Nelson Aguilar, Duvernay. If you can get a bunch of guys on this team that actually perform and this offense is tailor-made around Lamar Jackson to throw short passes, stay healthy, and run the ball when he has to. I mean, this team is pretty damn good. They got a pretty good defense too. So I think 11 is honestly, I was kind of underselling them on just 11 wins. So I'll take the over 9.5 for sure. That's just my opinion anyway.
Yeah, my initial thought, and this is, part of my homerism as a Steelers fan, I just don't like the Ravens. And I was looking at, I'm like, I had them in 9-8, and I feel like I'm kind of trashing them a little bit. I feel like this is probably a 10 or 11 win team, like you said. They're playing the AFC South. Those should be win after win after win for them. Like I said, my initial 9-8, re-looking at it, I'm probably pushing 10. Maybe 11 wins there. I think that AFC North is a really tough division. I could see those guys splitting a lot of games between the Steelers, Bengals, and the Browns in that division. So a lot of close games, a lot of tough ones. But like you said, I'm kind of sitting there, man. 9.5. I don't love the 9.5 at minus 150. I don't love that juice. I'm probably, if I wanted to take a bet on this, I would maybe go the 10.5 over wins at plus 116. If I'm going to get that extra money on there at the plus 116, I'd probably lean towards the 11 there. I wouldn't feel super confident about it, but I think you're right. I think this team gets at least 10 as long as Lamar's healthy. To be honest with you, I probably would not put an over-under bet at all on the Ravens for just that fact. If Lamar gets hurt again, this team could easily win 6-7 games if it's early in the year. If it's late, maybe they still make the playoffs like they did last year, but that has me nervous.
They don't have a backup. They don't have a backup plan at quarterback. So if Lamar goes down, you kind of see what
Tyler Huntley, like. Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley.
That's because everybody else said no thanks. I don't want the invite anymore. Sorry, go ahead. The quarterback 27 in the league got the Pro Bowl invite because nobody else wanted it. Yeah, I get it, but it's not one of those things where Tyler Huntley's not going to be able to move the machine that is the Baltimore Ravens like Lamar Jackson does. So they need Lamar Jackson to be on the field and healthy. They're going to pass a lot more. His rushing stats won't be phenomenal like you've gotten in the past, but they'll still be pretty good. The Ravens, I think, they're going to control the ball a lot more. Their defense is always good. You're going to find them winning probably 11-plus games this year, in my opinion.
Moving on to the Bengals, up-and-coming team, made the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Right now, they're at plus 140 to win the division. They're the favorite, plus 125 on FanDuel. Their over-under is sitting at 11.5 wins, and they're pretty much even money right now. They're plus 110 on both sites at the over, and they're under minus 130 and minus 134. So Vegas is slightly leaning the under here at 11 wins, and that's because I have them at 11-6, John. I think they're right at that 11.5 wins. I think they go to 11-6. I think it's going to be difficult for them to get to 12 with this schedule. But 11-6 in this division, I think whoever gets to 11 wins, I think can win this division.
I also have an 11-6. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Joe Mixon this year. That's a big question mark. And although he had one good game last year, he wasn't a humongous producer. I think he's going to stick around. If he's not going yet, he's probably not going to leave. So I'm penciling him in as being on this team. But how do you stop Chase Higgins and Tyler Boyd? And this team is just fantastic. Bringing in Charlie Jones, I think, was I think that's an underrated move on the Bengals part too. So this is a team that I think could easily win 10 games. I think 11 games is probably right on par with what I'm thinking here. So I'm going to go 11-6 here. If Mixon comes back, it might even be a 12-5 team.
Yeah, but I think they're right in the mix. I think the only thing holding them back is the schedule. Again, I think they have a pretty difficult schedule. I love the Charlie Jones, bringing him in the draft, and Chase Brown out of Illinois at running back. I think if Mixon ends up going away, I think Chase Brown can surprise a ton of people. I know I'm always talking about Chase Brown, but I just think he's got mad skills, man. I think he could be so much better than Mixon if he gets a chance.
I didn't want to say Chase Brown because I wanted you to say it because I know how big of a homer you are.
But I just think if you look at the schedule, it does break down fairly well to them. They've got some tough road games. They're at the Niners. They've got at the Jags is a tough game. They're home against the Colts. At the Chiefs. So they're going to have some big ones in there. But yeah, I think you said, I think this team feels like an 11-win team, pretty much on the money. If you definitely like them on the over, if you think they get to that 12-5, obviously now's the time to take it at plus 12. I'd almost, instead of taking the over-under wins, I would probably take them at plus 140 to win the division.
This team has such a polarizing schedule because you look at the Browns are a pretty good opponent. Let's be serious here. Even the Browns, when they're bad, they've still played pretty good games versus all their division opponents. You're playing the Browns, the Ravens, which is tough, but then you're playing the Rams and the Titans and the Cardinals. Then the Seahawks, I think, are a winnable game. We'll talk about them later too. But the 49ers are a tough game. Then the Bills are a tough game. Then you play the Texans, and then the Ravens and the Steelers are good. The Jaguars, the Colts. There's a couple teams that there are easy layup wins on this schedule, and then there's a lot of tough games too. So I 11-6, I think is a like I said, 12 probably. I have them 12-5 probably.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, I think I could easily sell myself on the 12-5 because there's just a handful of games that are that like toss-up game. Do they win that game at Kansas City, or do they lose that game? I could see them going in and winning that game at Kansas City. So like I said, I'm right there. I think they definitely could be in the mix on that. I was trying to look up real quick what Vegas has them right now. They have them for the season. That late game against the Chiefs is the only one of only two underdogs they are all year. So they're favored in 15 games. So seeing a team win 12 out of those 15 that they're favored makes sense to me. So I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Jumping down, next on the list here is the Cleveland Browns. You talked about it. My Browns hatred came through in picking this schedule. I'm just not a fan of the Browns. I'm not a fan of Deshaun Watson. If he bounces back, I think all bets are off with this team. If he looks like he did last year, they're going to be in big trouble. But this team, I could, if they come out and end up being pretty solid, I wouldn't be surprised. And then they're awful, I wouldn't be surprised. So right now they're plus 425 on DraftKings to win the division, plus 350 on FanDuel. Sitting at 9.5 over under wins. DraftKings plus 130, plus 110 for FanDuel. The under is where the money's lying, minus 150, and minus 134. Going to the schedule, my hatred, I just don't like them. I don't think they're very good. I think they definitely win more of the games than this. My original feeling was 4-13, and that's way too low. I know this team's going to figure out how to win more than that. I feel like this is more like a 6-7 win team. They've got them sitting right now at that 9.5 mark, but that's plus 130. I'm taking the under on this, but again, the under is minus 150. I don't love giving up the minus 150 on the under, but that just tells me Vegas doesn't feel very good about them getting a 9 either, and I feel much better. And I had them at 4. I think they're more of a 7 or 8 win team.
I mean, Vegas is a lot smarter than I am, but I had them at 10-7 this year. The team was good without Watson at quarterback, but if Watson shows out, watch out, because they are I love the Browns. I'm not that I'm a Browns fan, but I just think their team is in place right now to really kind of steamroll people with their offense. 10-7, I thought it was pretty damn. There was a team that I felt pretty confident saying 10-7. I didn't see like 9 or 8 wins. I didn't see 11 or 12 wins. I thought 10-7 was kind of right there, but I don't. Watson got thrown right in the middle of the. He got thrown right in the middle of the pool, of the middle of the season after you having a year off and then be suspended for half the year. He wasn't really on par with his receiving core. Wasn't the running game was good, but I get the offense is going to unfold this year, I think, and it might take a couple of weeks to get everybody back on track 100%. I know Watson looked pretty bad last year, but you can't expect someone who hasn't thrown a ball in a year to have to come out there and just start gunning the ball over the field. A whole offseason, the rest of last year, a whole offseason, and a good team around him will make this offense. If he was good on the Texans with nothing besides one good receiver, with the Browns with all these players, I don't see how he can go bad. Amari Cooper is a fantastic receiver. They got Elijah Moore right now, who's super underrated right now. I mean, in fantasy football, if you can get Elijah Moore, I would pick him up right now because he is going to be a target machine on this team. DPJ, a little bit overrated. I think Cedric Tillman's coming in to kind of take that role over, but even like David Njoku, who's a really good a really good tight end. And then Nick Chubb and Jerome. I love Jerome Ford out of the backfield for dump offs. Nick Chubb is just going to eat up the clock. And you saw everybody MF Nick Chubb for not being able to catch the ball. He had a handful of targets last year. He did pretty well when he caught the ball too. I think you're going to see a lot more well-rounded offense on this team. And I don't understand the Browns hate this year at all. I really don't see it. Like I said, I got him at 10-7.
I think if they can get 80% of Deshaun Watson that was on the Texans, I think 10-7 is completely doable. I think it's completely doable. I think this whole team rides on Deshaun Watson. Is he going to be old Deshaun Watson who just lit everybody up, or is he going to be mostly what you saw last year? Now, last year feels like an anomaly. I mean, it was a bad situation, like you said, everything you explained. I think he ends up being better. I just got the bad juju about this team. I just don't think they're going to be – I just think they're going to end up not being very good. But I also, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if they came out and they played great. Every game was close and they stuck out a bunch of games and they do win 10 games. Because I could see everyone in this division being right at that 10-win mark, 9, 10, 11 wins. I think this division is going to be extremely close.
Yes. A very good, very tough division, and this is a very underrated division for the NFL as far as that goes. A lot of good teams in this division, but they don't need to start out with Deshaun Jackson being awesome because they got Nick Chubb, they got David Njoku to get dump off passes. They don't need to be crazy. They don't need to be nuts. They don't need to go awesome and just pass for 100 million yards. They could just control the game clock with Nick Chubb if they get ahead in any game, because the offensive line is fantastic. Nick Chubb's fantastic. They don't need to go out and prove anything to anybody. It's Sloan says he's going to win a race for this team, and I think they're just going to figure out how this offense flows nice and easy, real early, and just keep winning games.
Now we'll get to my Steelers, last team in this division, a very divisive team in this division they're all over the place where people think this team is going. Right now, they're plus 450 on DraftKings to win the division, plus 650 on FanDuel. I love them odds. Over-under right now is 8.5. Vegas is leaning the over. DraftKings minus 130, FanDuel minus 132, the under plus 110 and plus 106. They're leaning for the over. They were 8.5 last year. I told everyone there was no way they weren't winning 9 games last year. I looked like an idiot at the beginning of the season. Of course, they came through and won 9 games, and I won and hit all my bets. I'm all over the over on this. I think they win 9 games. The schedule is mighty easy. Talking about all these other teams with how tough their schedule is, the Steelers really lucked out with a prime schedule this year. I think it works in their favor. I think this comes down to, are you a Kenny Pickett believer or not? If you think Kenny Pickett is going to make that year 2 jump and has what it takes, I think this team can be super underrated this year. I think they're sneaky good. But I also see people on the whole other side who think Kenny Pickett is terrible. They think he's one of the worst quarterback starting QBs in the league. And their head needs to go down. So for right there, for Kenny. So I just think, for me, I'm a believer in the Steelers. Oh, you're fine. So for me, I'm a believer in the Steelers. I've got this team at 12-5. I know it's a little bit of a homer pick by me, thinking that they can finish with that good of a record, but I just think the schedule just works out for them that way. I just think 12-5 is totally reasonable. I think they're probably more of a 10-7, 11-6 team. If I'm being totally honest, I think I gave them a little too much credit. But I think this team wins 11 games. I think this division is going to come down to tiebreakers because I think every one of these teams can win 10 or 11.
Yeah, I got them at 9-8. It's a tough division. I just think the Steelers love being mid. That's all they want to do is just get over that. Make sure that Tomlin never has a losing record, and that's it. So how do you feel? I'm in a situation now where everybody's in love with Jalen Warren right now, and everybody's MF and Najee Harris. Do you think Najee Harris is somebody that is he in for a regression, or do you think he's going to get better this year? I'm all over Najee this year. I think Najee has a big bounce back year. I think he's more been a volume guy the first couple years, but I think he's healthy now. I think their O-line is much improved. I think now that they have Kenny Pickett instead of Trubisky at quarterback, that's going to open up the passing game and open up some lanes for Najee. I'm all over Najee this year. I think Najee ends up having the year everybody thought he was going to have last year. I think he actually ends up having this year. I think he was a year away. I'm on Najee, and I have had people like, hey, do you want to trade Warren away? And I'm not trading Warren anywhere that I have Najee because I feel like he's a great handcuff. I think he's going to be totally playable if something ends up happening to Najee. But I'm on him, and if you're in a super flex or 2 QB league, I've been going around and picking up Kenny Pickett everywhere. Because if I can get Kenny Pickett for cheap as my 3rd quarterback, I'm loving that upside with him. And there's just a lot of people are out on him. And if you're in a league with somebody that's out on him, man, go get him because they just don't think he's worth much. I tell you what, the big wild card here is going to be if Allen Robinson can figure it out this year. If Allen Robinson gets on track and actually produces with this team and kind of figures out what's going on or how they can use them, I tell you what, man, it's going to be wheels up for this offense.
Yeah, I just think the offense is going to be much improved. I think the defense was solid last year, and they had TJ hurt most of the season. If TJ stays healthy, with the additions they made at linebacker with Holcomb and some of those other guys, I just think this team, when healthy, can compete with anybody, especially in this division, because this division, they play everyone tough. I mean, this is another one like the AFC East. They all kind of beat each other up. They go 1-1 against each other. I just think this team is much better than last year. They went 9-8 last year with a harder schedule. So that's why I think this team – I don't know if I think they're the best team in this division, but could I see them winning this division? I absolutely could, just because I think some of the other teams have harder schedules. And I think this division is going to come down to one game. I really do. I think there's going to be – someone's going to end up getting to 11-6. And there's going to be a couple teams sitting at 11-6, 10-7, and a tiebreaker is going to make the difference.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Allen Robinson. Gunnar Olszewski is one of my best friend's nephews, just so I like the Steelers. I like that he's a punt returner, the special team guys for the Steelers. I don't know what happened to Calvin Austin last year. I know he was hurt, but I'm not sure why, when he came back healthy, they wouldn't bring him back in at all. But he's a small guy. He's super speedy. He could be a good gadget guy for this team.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're looking at Freiermuth. and then the combination of Najee and Jalen Warren, if they can use both those kind of like 70-30 kind of, or maybe 65-35 kind of thing, they can use that kind of a balance. I honestly think this offense is overrated too. So the Steelers, I have them at 9-8, but like you said before, it's a very tough division. They just need to win a couple of the games that they just blew last year, and this division it could. They honestly could win this division, which is kind of crazy to say that.
Yeah, I just think because they play they're playing the South. They got the Texans, they got the Titans, they got the Colts and the Jags. I think they probably win 3 out of those 4 games. The toughest game they have in that one is the Jags, and they get that one at home. And I actually penciled that as a loss, and they get Jags at home, and I think those 2 teams are pretty even. So I'm looking at the schedule. I think they win 11. I really do. I think high side's 12. I think low side's 10. I'm taking the over all day, 8.5. I think they get to 8.5 unless there's a bunch of injuries. I don't see this team not getting a 9 at least and being in the mix. And again, I think it comes down to Kenny Pickett because this offense has a ton of talent.
Yes.
Ton of talent. If Kenny Pickett can make that second-year jump, this team has a ton of upside. If Kenny Pickett doesn't make that jump, then the Steelers team's in trouble. I still think even if he doesn't play a lot better than last year, he played okay last year and they still won 9. And that was with Trubisky. So again, I just think looking at the stats, looking at the way, I think Vegas has them favored. And I think there were 6 or 7 games that they were not favored in. So again, they're right in that mix. A lot of the games were really close. I just see an uptick from the Steelers here a little bit. And I love that division at plus 650 on FanDuel. I absolutely love that bet. I'm making that bet to take the division. Obviously, it's a long shot bet at plus 650, but that's such great odds in a division that I think is going to be one game.
I don't love it, but I can see it.
That's what I'm saying. I just love it because the odds. I love the 650. If it was 200, I'd be like, maybe. But at 650, I'll throw a 50 spot on 650. And it's in a division where I think it comes down to maybe one game.
Yeah.
1 game difference or a tiebreaker. I'm definitely looking at that. And obviously, that's part of my homerism as a Steelers fan coming out. And I'll admit that. I'll admit that right out in the open. That's
you up on trades and why you move. You ain't designed to lose. Find you jumping over seemingly nothing. Racking up points makes the game a little more fun to watch. Can drop release. We started with the mock draft and now we making a mockery up.